Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host Michael. Joining me this week, joining us live from San Diego, Gail Falcon, all the community Digital News. Joining us live from the UK, Mr. Boxing Addict. Joining us live from Taiwan, Sean Newton. How you doing, lady and gents?
Excellent. How y'all? Everyone multitasking. They're doing the Pound for Pound Boxing Report.
Good.
Watching the NBA Finals.
Pretty much. For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show /podcast /blog that discusses all things boxing. The motto is, when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is, if it concerns boxing, we will talk about it. If you want to find more information about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, please check the blog page, p4boxingreport.wordpress.com, and repeat that, p4boxingreport.wordpress.com. On the blog page, you will find not only articles and videos and whatnot done by yours truly, but also special articles by Gail Falcon, as well as Kayla and Lewis on Twitter, KBC Live on YouTube and G+. Also, if you check out the blog page and you look to the right of the blog page, you will see links to where to find the Pound for Pound Boxing Report all over social media, all over the interwebs. The page on Facebook, links for the pages on Facebook, the two G+ pages, the Tumblr page, the Podomatic page where you can find all previous episodes about the Twitter account. P4P Boxing Report is where you can find it on Twitter. We got our Pinterest board, the RSS feed if you want to subscribe and listen to the show there. We're also on Stitcher Radio. Just go to StitcherRadio.com and just look up the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. That's P-O-U-N-D, the number 4, P-O-U-N-D Boxing Report. Check us out on Stitcher Radio. And leave a review. Leave some comments. Let us know what we're doing good with the show and how can we improve with this show. Also, you got the email address, which is p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. And lastly, a link where you can donate your account. The link for that is donateyouraccount.com/P4P Boxing Report. Be a friend. Donate your Twitter account, and what happens is any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page, your Twitter account will automatically retweet any tweet that comes from the Pound for Pound Boxing Report Twitter page. Those matters out the way. Let's get the show started. Weekend's action, headlined by Miguel Cotto's returning to the ring following his middleweight title win over Sergio Martinez last year. He fought Saturday in New York. No, I believe it was. Excuse me. Oh no, it was at New York. I'm sorry.
Brooklyn.
In the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Excuse me. I was scoring a 4th round TKO, dominant win by Cotto. He had his way from beginning to end. Knocked down in round 4 by way of a huge left hook, a follow-up flurry of punches, put Geale down again, and he didn't get up. He decided to say, "That's all, folks." He didn't want no more. But the issue, kind of before the fight, especially after the fight, to many folks was the issue of catch weight. This fight was fought at 157 pounds, and in fact, Cotto, he only weighed 153.6 at the weigh-in, while he made the 157 limit. He was bone dry at the weigh-in. And by fight night, HBO reported that he came into the ring. He weighed in street clothes, weighed in at 182 pounds. That is a 25-pound jump from the weigh-in to the night of the fight. Dominant win by Cotto. I'll go to you on this one, Gail, ladies first. Talk about the fight, but issue of catch weights. It greatly benefited Cotto. It was a real detriment to Geale. I don't think he was going to win anyway, but he was obviously weakened during the fight. Catch weights. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it just a necessary? Is it just a because of the dynamics in boxing, because of fighters being A side and B side? It's just something that we just have to deal with.
I don't like them. I don't like them at all. But I also don't like day before the fight weigh-ins either. So that's another story. We're never going backwards there. We're probably never going backwards on the prevalence of catch weights, especially to make fights. That being said, when Daniel Geale agreed to this, Daniel Geale knew what he was in for, and Daniel Geale shouldn't have weighed 167 pounds a week before the fight. That's his job as a professional. At least, credit to him. He and his team said, hey, we agreed to 157. We'll make 157, and by God, he did, on the nose, make 157. But then it renders him in the fight only for a paycheck, honestly. The other issue is you have somebody who is the lineal middleweight belt holder. Nevertheless, jumping ahead somewhat, after the fight, Cotto is asked, are you a middleweight, by HBO's Max Kellerman. He didn't even hesitate. He said, look at me. I'm not a middleweight. Well, no shit, Sherlock. No, you're not a middleweight. He weighed in at junior middleweight. I mean, he didn't even make middleweight. He was under the junior middleweight limit. So, on the other hand, he did win that lineal title fair and square by beating Martinez, also not a big middleweight, so he becomes the man who beat the man who beat the man. That's the way it goes. However, if that's the case, and you're going to keep fighting middleweights, eventually the sanctioning organization needs to take the belt away and give a true middleweight a chance to hold it. And we all know who we think that is. So, to the fight itself, not unexpected results. Cotto looked great. He absolutely looked superb from a technique standpoint, from a punch selection standpoint. How much of it was Cotto's resurrection of his skills under Freddie Roach? How much of it was that he was facing a human punching bag in Daniel Geale who wasn't going to move until he hit him and dropped him? Hard to say. That's what makes whatever fight comes up next so intriguing for us fans. And of course, we all hope and we assume it's Canelo Alvarez. I would warn everybody, until the promoters announce that the paperwork has been signed, we should not say the fight is happening. We should say the fight is expected to happen or may happen. But we've seen stuff go sideways before. But it's a fight I think we'd all like to see. Who's kidding who?
I'll go to you on this one, Sean. Unmute your mic, please. I know heading into the fight, you felt that Geale had a decent chance, more than a decent chance to win. Turned out not to be the case. So I want to go to you in particular about this issue of catchweight. Do you think it's unfair? Do you think folks are being hypocritical because the argument can be made that the same folks who are complaining now did not complain, where were they when Cotto had to fight Pacquiao at a catchweight? And we all know historically there have been catchweight fights before. The most famous case over the past maybe 30 years or so was Leonard making Daniel Geale come down from 160 weight to 168 or something like that. When Chavez fought Whitaker, Whitaker was the welterweight champion, but they made him move down to 145 to accommodate Chavez. Your thoughts?
I mean, catchweights are a part of boxing. They always have been. And a lot of people love to make excuses and just whine about everything. I mean, nobody needs to sign these contracts. Nobody needs to make these fights. But the same people whining about catchweights are the same people that whine about how come these top fighters never fight. What do you want? Do you want guys to fight, or do you want to bitch and moan about everything? I mean, catchweights are making it so that these fights do happen. So who's going to complain? We all wanted to see Floyd fight Sergio, so you don't think Floyd would have made Sergio fight at a catchweight? So Cotto went in, fought the linear champion, won the belt. He's not a middleweight, so obviously he's going to throw catchweights in until Canelo beats him and takes over. And even Canelo is going to use catchweights initially until he can't make those catchweights anymore. But I mean, historically, people always use catchweights, just not usually for title fights. But like Geale said, they also had same-day weigh-ins. They didn't have day-before weigh-ins. When guys that weren't welterweights or middleweights, middleweights now are more like light heavyweights, and they drain themselves down to then fight these smaller guys so they have advantages. And then we should moan because somebody pulls them down to an equal weight. Come on, let's be real. Most of these guys that fight at their weights are not that weight. They're just trying to look for advantages. Why do you think Danny Garcia doesn't want to go to 147? Why Canelo doesn't want to go to 160? Because they want to keep their advantages as much as they can, even if they're killing themselves to like drain themselves. Geale signed this weight, and obviously it made an effect on him. But I mean, Cotto also looked great. I mean, he just sort of steamed and or just based on skill. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Cotto because he looked sensational, and Geale, you know, looked shit and limited, and didn't look like he had any sort of staying power at all. And I mean, he stopped, quit, even though he looked like he could have went on. But I mean, you know, that's the second fight in a row, or you know, second fight out of 3 that he's done that. But I mean, I have no problem with catch weights. I mean, if we can get the big names in the ring, I think it's all fair and game. You know, no one needs to sign, but we want to see GGG fight Ward. We want to see GGG fight Cotto or Canelo. We want to see these fights. So you have to put fights at a weight that equals the playing field a little bit, so that everybody's sort of, you know, comfortable coming into a fight, so we can get the best. It's like Broner and Porter that's going to happen. I mean, people can whine and moan that Broner's afraid of Porter, but Porter's not even a 147 fight. So the only people he's looked good against have been guys who he could bully. So, you know, he thinks he can still make the weight, and he can come in and bully Broner and get the victory. We will see.
I see in the chat room, in the private chat here, Boxing Addict, you may have a different opinion here. Explain.
Yeah, I hate catch weights. I can't stand them. Never have. Sean touched on it there, where it's always been used to somebody's advantage. I mean, this fight, Cotto and Geale, you can't blame Geale for taking the fight. It's for the lineal middleweight championship. It's for a lot of money. It's against Cotto. But he was never going to win the fight. I thought he had a chance to win the fight, but it was clear to see after a couple of rounds. It reminded me a little bit of Andre Ward versus Chad Dawson, where Dawson came down and he looked completely drained. He had absolutely nothing, and you know, he ended up getting knocked out. And it was very similar. Ward had all the advantage in that fight, and Cotto had all the advantage in this one. This is about Cotto winning in style. And as I say, you can't blame Geale for coming down and agreeing to earn the money. But yeah, I can't stand catch weights. Everybody should fight at their weight. You either decide to move up, or that's it. So yeah, that's the way I see it. And yeah, Cotto did look good, but he looked good against a guy who was obviously drained, and it wasn't the Geale that we thought would be going in there, and that was because of the weight, in my opinion.
I'm stuck in the middle. It's always been around. It's just an aspect of the sport I do not like. I think if the fights are good, to Sean's points, if it's a situation where it results in the fights that we want to see be made, it's a good thing. The problem is that is not always the case. More times than not, it's not the case. More times than not, it's being used by a fighter, be it the bigger fighter or the weight advantage, and you do not get to fight. You do not get to see the fight that you anticipate because one fighter is so weakened or one fighter is so small. So that's what my issue. Again, you can't look. Do you like Cotto and what he's doing? No, but Cotto is his own boss. He's being his usual diva self. He has the power. He has the negotiating pull to do that, and he's taking advantage of it. So you saw what you saw. Geale was weakened. That's not taking too much away, but it was a combination of Cotto performing very well and Geale being weak at the weight, and you saw what you saw. Let's move on and talk about the future. I mentioned it. I'm hearing there is an agreement in place, even though nothing has been signed. That's kind of like a verbal agreement between Cotto and Canelo in their camps for them to fight later on this year. I'll go back to you, Boxing Addict. Your thoughts on this? Is it going?
Just say that for me again, Michael. Which fight were you talking about?
I'm talking about it looks like that we will see Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez. Silent agreement behind the scenes, though nothing has been signed. It's kind of like a verbal thing that they will fight next later on this year. You'll early look at a Miguel Cotto a Miguel Cotto Canelo Alvarez fight.
Yeah, great fight. Love to see that. I'm not sure if that would be made at 154 or whether that would involve his middleweight championship at 160. I don't know. But yeah, I want to see that fight. You know, they're both of a similar size, I suppose. You could say Canelo's a little bit bigger, but it's a very 50-50 fight. Cotto looked good the other night, but you know, it looked like a glorified sparring session to me, and Cotto was allowed to look like a decent sort of technical boxer, which he is to a degree, but you know, he could be a brawler when he wants to as well, and that's probably when he's at his best for me. Very good fight. I'd just go with Canelo if it were to happen, but wouldn't surprise me if Cotto won. Great fight, want to see it.
Excuse me, my computer's lagging on me a bit here, so I'm a little bit behind. I'll go to you on this one. Yeah, the issue for me, when I look at this fight, how would a Canelo deal with the movement, the jab, and the body punching, Cotto, given Cotto's size? I know he had issues with Floyd, but I think Cotto will try to do the same thing and will bring more because he's naturally a bigger guy and because he punches harder. But at the same time, what would happen to Cotto if Canelo were able to find his body? If he was able to establish the jab.
Great bout, exciting from a fan point of view. Two guys who will bring it. Neither of these guys have ever been in a boring fight, and that's what boxing needs right now. No more boring fights, especially for the casual fan. The good news is that Canelo has had that experience with Floyd. It perfectly sets him up to have learned from it and not make those same mistakes again with Cotto, because Cotto and Mayweather's offensive skills are very similar. So you're going to have a Cotto with the similar offensive skills of Floyd without quite the same defensive tactical brilliance. So whatever Canelo learned from fighting Mayweather, he'll have that in his back pocket, and he's worked on it. And you could see in the Kirkland fight what he'd learned, and that'll be an advantage to him. Cotto is faster. Cotto, however, is the older by 13 years, right? So that's always an interesting factor. The word is that this will be done at a 155-pound catch weight. That's okay with me. Canelo's fought at 155 his last 3 fights, so that it's not really out of the question. I think that's fair enough. He can make that with ease. He'll still be, by appearances, by far the bigger guy. He has really gotten thick and built across the back and shoulders from when I last saw him up close. Pretty amazing. And I think it's going to come down in many ways to ring generalship. Can Canelo cut Cotto off? Can he pin him anywhere to get to him? I think if he can, he's going to have a good shot at it, really good shot at it. He can take a punch. If Cotto gets in there and decides to have at him, Canelo has shown he can take a punch. That's certainly better than Daniel Geale. You're going to have a bunch of crazy Mexicans and Puerto Ricans screaming their lungs out, whether it's in New York or, could be in Jerry Jones' house in Texas, which would be great fun, huge crowd. It's all good, so looking forward to what we hope happens in September.
My question is also, and I'll go to you on this one, Sean. How would Miguel Cotto deal with? How will he deal? Does he have the stamina and the strength at this age to deal with a long, physical, rough fight? The last time he was in one, when Margarito gave it to him the first time, a rough physical fight, he didn't look good. Pacquiao kind of did the same thing in a way. He didn't look good. I wonder, going against the size and the strength of Canelo, if Canelo pressures him, if he forces him to early on, especially, how would Miguel Cotto deal with that? And when it goes to 8 rounds, 10, a rough physical fight, if Canelo tries to make it that kind of a fight, I wonder at this age, even though Cotto has looked great lately, how would he deal with it now?
I think that's a non-issue. I mean, since when has Canelo been a guy with great endurance? I mean, Canelo fights in spurts. I mean, he picks and chooses when to fight. He dictates when he's going to throw, and the rest of the time he will move, lay against the ropes, and just sort of recuperate and let the other guy try to get off, but mostly smother him and just make it awkward and tough on the guy, because he is very strong and physical, and he can, protect himself fairly well against the ropes. So I don't think that's.
But the other side of that, Sean, Cotto lately hasn't gone late and full on for 12 rounds either. I mean, this is the same guy who faded somewhat late against Mayweather too. So that's why I ask. Even though Canelo, he fights in spurts, fight a physical fight for Cotto later, a tough physical fight for 12 rounds.
That's the whole point. I mean, he's not fighting a guy who gives it for 12 rounds. I mean, if anybody.
And again, the body punching. And you put the body punching in there as well. Even though he fights in spurts, he can still in spurts go to town on Cotto's body if he can find it. How will Cotto deal?
Yeah, but how will Canelo deal? How is Canelo going to deal with going to the body and somebody pressuring him for the first 6 rounds? Because we saw that after 3 rounds he was winded. I mean, so that argument can be used both ways. I mean, neither one of these guys has shown that they can go 12 rounds hard, non-stop fighting. But luckily, neither of them have to. In this fight, that's not going to be what dictates who wins. What's going to be dictating who wins is going to be based on skill. Who can take away the other guy's power and ability and get off on their own. I mean, that's going to be the thing that comes down to it. Size and catch weights aren't going to work because with these two guys, they're both 154 guys, so none of that's going to mean anything. The only thing that's going to matter in this fight is skill.
I still think Cotto has, even though it's at 155.
I love GGG, and I would like to see him. I didn't hear you.
I was going to say I still think Canelo Alvarez has some difficulty getting down to that 155-pound limit. That's just me. So it may have a factor.
Well, I don't know.
The last 3 fights.
Yeah, he looked good at the weigh-ins for his last few fights. I mean, the only one he looked bad at was making Floyd Mayweather fight when he looked like a skeleton. After that, I mean, he's looked good. I mean, he's been coming in over 154, but I think he does that comfortably. Getting down under 154, obviously that's the problem. That's why we think, obviously, he can move up to 160. But fighting a guy like Cotto for a 160 belt at like that catch weight, I mean, that's like perfect. That works for both of them. There's no way this fight isn't going to be great because both of these guys are going to come in super comfortable. And I mean, neither one of them is bigger or longer, faster. So, I mean, they're both great body punchers. They're both skilled fighters. They both have great jabs. I mean, not to say they're mirror images, but I mean, they're pretty similar in the way they fight. And they both have problems, like you said, with endurance. So, really, I mean, this is the best fight that's happened this year by far. I mean, way better than Floyd and Manny, better than anything else. I mean, this is a fight to get excited about. And, I can't see this fight not selling over 2 million pay-per-views because who doesn't want to see it? I mean, people can him and haw and moan and groan and talk all this shit, but just give Cotto props for doing what he needed to do. You know, give Canelo props for kicking Kirkland's ass, who still some people picked on this site, you know, on this podcast to beat Canelo. So,
Gosh, who is that?
you know, yeah, so it's not like it was such a blowout because people picked him. Lots of people picked him.
And both these guys can sell tickets and fill an arena.
I mean, all over the
30,000
YTPs.
people in that arena.
So here is where are they going to fight?
Yeah. And it'll make a difference. It'll make a difference if they're in Madison Square Garden versus Texas or Vegas. I think it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be a Vegas fight. That I feel very confident saying. It's not a Vegas fight. I think it's going to be in Texas.
Texas would be terrible. Bad judging.
Oh, bad refereeing.
I agree with Sean on that.
Yeah, I mean, Cotto won it in New York.
It's both bad judging and refereeing. I agree with Sean on that.
Yeah, it'll probably be in New York, but they could sell more tickets in at a big stadium setting. It'd be interesting. Depends on how greedy they are.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a fight that happened earlier Saturday. PBC on NBC card at the StubHub Center. Robert Guerrero coming back really lost to Keith Thurman, in which he lost a bid for the welterweight title, one of the welterweight belts, I should say. Fighting a unknown guy by the name of Aron Martinez. Martinez, to me, he really took it to Guerrero the first 5 rounds, knocked him down in round 4. Lucky for Guerrero, the bell rung, or he may have been stopped. But Guerrero, the Ghost, he rallied over the second half of the fight. On my personal scorecard, I had Martinez winning because I did not think Guerrero did enough to recover from the deficit early on in the fight. But more to the point, I didn't like how lethargic Guerrero looked. He seemed disinterested. Martinez, he fought, as far as I'm concerned, he put on the best performances in his career. He fought over himself in that fight. But Guerrero got the decision, split decision win, 97-92, 95-94 in favor of Guerrero. The other card had it 95-94 for Martinez. I will go to you on this one, Sean. Your impressions of the fight?
Who cares? I mean,
Wow.
Guerrero is so overhyped. I mean, who cares? I mean, he's never been a top-level 154 fighter. The only thing he has is heart. And, again, he showed heart. So, good on him. Because he's a tough guy, and he's not a pushover, and I'll give him props for that. But he was given a fight that was basically for another big fight that he's overmatched in, but so he can get a big payday. And he looked shit and got overmatched by a guy who was nothing special. And he didn't adjust very well. I mean, the only thing he showed is that every fight he's in is a dog fight because he's shit. And every fight he will be in it'll be entertaining because he's got heart. Even if he's going to lose, he's going to fight. And if he wins, he's not going to win easily. He's going to have to, you know, fight like a dog to get the victory, like he did with Berto and with Aiden and, you know, Kamagai and, you know, everybody. And, you know, give him props because even when he got his ass beat by Thurman and he lost every round, but he's got heart and he's tough. And he made that fight very good because, I mean, you know, otherwise it would have been boring if Thurman just walked through him. But because he's a tough guy and he brought it, he made it probably the best fight on the PBC since the show's been on. So I give him heart because, I mean, he does his best to entertain, but, I mean, he's not relevant at 147. He's an opponent, and that's all he is. Basically, he's at the same level as the Mexican guy with 3 names.
Jesus Soto Carras.
Boom.
Since Sean seems to give no damns about this fight, I'm going to on to you, boxing addict. Your impressions of the fight. I look at it in the aftermath. One, I wonder if Guerrero needs a new trainer because he seems to do the same thing in the ring every time you see him. Two, I wonder if this is the culmination of a guy who moved up too much in weight. Where is this guy displayed when he was at 126, 130, and 135? At welterweight, he's been reduced to being nothing more than a fighter, than a brawler. He didn't have the greatest foot speed and hand speed at the lower weight. He really doesn't have it now at welterweight. Because he's so big now, he's going to basically fight one way. And also, I just don't think he has adequate training in terms of his father teaching him how to. Well, let me take that back. Maybe his father can't teach him to adjust because physically he cannot adjust. So, your impressions of the fight in the aftermath, your thoughts on Guerrero. It also could be a case of just Guerrero's just slipping. He's just slipping. Period.
Yeah, well, I'll have to pass on the actual fight because I didn't get to see it. But I have heard that it was a bit up and down and he managed to sneak it. But I can comment certainly on Guerrero as a fighter, and Sean's absolutely right. He's shit. He's shit now. He's got no power at that weight. He's not going to do any serious damage. He'll be in there fighting and he'll be relentless for a while. He'll come back, but he's not going to win against the elite level guys. So he has become irrelevant. You know, he'd won a few fights and he managed to get that Mayweather fight, and since then he's done nothing and he's not capable of doing anything really. So he's a guy who's just on the periphery now. He's a gatekeeper really, and that's it. But you know, he's made some money. He can still have some decent fights, and that's about it for him, I'd imagine. So that's all I've got to say on Guerrero.
Are you going to make it 3 for 3, Gail?
Yeah. Although I did not have any trouble with Guerrero winning. I was sitting ringside. You know, Guerrero said the reason he did so poorly against Thurman is that he had ring rust and it took him a while to warm up. He'd been out of the ring a year. Okay. And the reason that he took this fight, according to Guerrero's public statements, is that he wanted to get back in the ring right away and not let that ring rust get hold of him again, so he wouldn't have the same problem. Okay, let's take him at his word, and that it wasn't the paycheck, the $1 million purse that he got for fighting at noon as the Belmont warm-up in front of, you know, a StubHub that I've never seen that empty in my entire life until Saturday. And he still didn't warm up. He still couldn't get moving the first few rounds. He was absolutely having the crap beat out of him. When he went down, had that round lasted 10, 15 seconds longer, the fight would have been over. He absolutely had no legs under him at all. Now, it is a credit to his conditioning that the minute he got to recover, got him back in the fight. Although Aron Martinez missed a really good opportunity. He still had a good 30 seconds a minute of round 5 where I think he could have taken him out, and for whatever reason he did not. But Guerrero did have superior ring skills when he deployed them, when he cared to. He did just enough to win. That 97-92 card was ridiculous. That was the Al Heyman card. It was just stupid. Even the fans present booed that one because it was so ridiculous. You know, and after the fight, we all asked Guerrero about, you know, come on, basically all questions all boiled down to, why'd you have so much problem with this guy? What the hell? And he shook them all off, saying, well, yeah, okay, maybe he caught me, it's no big deal, and I'm good, and you should be good, and I'm good. But you know, he's never had a fight where his face wasn't busted up the last few years. Once again, he had a big shiner under his left eye. And you do have to wonder how long he's going to keep having fights like this. Now he says he wants either Broner or Maidana. You know, in the PBC universe, he'll probably get him. I bet you he gets Broner if Broner loses to Porter. I almost guarantee that. His fans do like him. He's a super likable guy. He isn't boring. PBC knows, I think, to try not to be boring, but they really should aspire to a little more than that. And have that be $1 million purse main event. It was just, the whole card, the whole situation was just plain bizarre. That's all I can say.
In terms of Guerrero, I'm going to make it 4 for 4. Here's the problem with his post-fight comments. He fought a guy who was stopped by Josecito Lopez, who's a junior welterweight and an average junior welterweight. And yet he let this guy really take the fight to him in the first 5 rounds and knock him down, almost stopped him. I know that he rallied over the second half of the fight, but it leaves a bad impression to struggle against a guy like this and moving against a Maidana or whatnot for decent money. But that's all. He's just going to be fighting tough fights for decent. He's not going to be title worthy again. He's just going to be that run-of-the-mill guy that you see in exciting fights and whatever. And he's going to quickly fade away. I believe in 3 to 5 years, he's going to be done with the sport because he's going to be so worn out. You cannot go through a succession of tough. He took this fight for the money. It is foolish for him to come out 3 months after a fight, after such a tough fight against a Keith Thurman, where he got punished physically for large segments of the fight. So I'm not buying the stuff about him wanting to get in the ring so quickly. So it is what it is. I'm gonna make it 4 for 4 here with Guerrero. He won, but it really wasn't impressive, and at least moving forward in his career. On the undercard of this PBC card, it wasn't actually aired on PBC. It was actually aired after the NBC main event was over. Dominic Breazeale, interesting clash of undefeated heavyweights. He fought a guy by the name of Consuegra. Geale, Sean, I don't know if you saw this fight, but Breazeale won by 3-round TKO. Consuegra had a halfway decent first round, landed some right hands here and there. But it was the right hand of Breazeale that eventually took over. Breazeale, big guy, 6'7" heavyweight, caught him with more right hands in the third, put him on the deck. Breazeale nailed him again with, I believe, another right hand. He went down face first. Fight was over, I believe, 150 mark, I believe it was, or somewhere around there. Geale, Sean, boxing at it. Your impressions of Breazeale? He won by knockout, but I'm like, man, I need to see more of him before I can say he's on the level of a Joshua or anybody like that.
It was fun to watch. It's interesting to see him up close. This is my first opportunity to actually see him fight in person. He did take some shots, no question, early, and I think that was good for him. You know, sometimes in the long run, those are the kind of events where a younger fighter learns a lot. So he took some shots, but the fact is Consuegra gave up a lot of height difference, some reach difference. He was much slower, and those factors made it very tough for him to be competitive. So once Breazeale took a few shots, woke up. I mean, it was early, okay? It was noon on the West Coast. I get it. He wasn't quite awake. He takes a few hits. He got down to business. Funny enough, though, he had said before the fight he was hoping to get some more rounds in. And when he put Consuegra down the first time, pardon me, when he put him down the first time, you couldn't tell, I don't think, from the television broadcast, but he was in the neutral corner near us, and he was yelling at Consuegra, "Come on, get up! Come on, get up!" I mean, audibly. And whether that was for show or he really did want to get some more work in, I don't know. But Consuegra was just, guys that walk in with an unbeaten record, you really wonder who in the world did they fight to get an unbeaten record. It was ridiculous. Once again, we're going to, I think, have a long wait before we have another really great big man from Cuba like Teofilo Stevenson. This guy was couldn't have carried his towels. It was embarrassing.
Sean, Boxing Addict, if any of you guys saw the fight, your analysis?
You know, I mean, as far as his style and his setup and everything and his long jab, I mean, he looks like he has skills. So I won't take that away from him. But, and you know, being a heavyweight, some skills can get you far. Especially if he has higher, like you said. I mean, we need to see him in with like a warm body, somebody who's going to actually like bring something. Because he fought this guy who was nothing, and he got hit by a lot of right hands. And you just imagine what would happen if that was Joshua's right hand. The fight would have been over in 1 round. And then they would have said, you know, who's this guy? He's nobody. You know, I mean, he's an Olympian, so you can see he's got skills, but I don't think his hands are very fast. I don't know how much power he has. He's pretty flat-footed, and his legs are pretty heavy, which in heavyweights isn't...
Does he have true? Excuse me for interrupting, Sean. Does he have true power, or is he just a big guy? Is his power just based on him being a big guy?
Well, that's what we're not sure about, right? Because I mean, the guys he's beating, he should knock them out. I've never seen any devastating knockout like punch up. So I've never been sold on him. But I mean, at this point, I mean, he's still just a prospect. So we need to see him in with somebody. You know, like throw him in with like with Chris Arreola. You know, and see what he does.
Oh yeah.
And I mean,
yeah.
And is that fight too much to say for him? I mean, really? I mean, he's the bigger guy. He has the pedigree. I mean, you know, he's hoping to get that upper echelon fight within the next, I don't know, must be like 1.5 years at least. I can't see him waiting longer. I mean, how long are you going to wait before you're pushing for, like, big fights and titles? I mean, that's where you get the money. You're not going to get money fighting Joe Schmo and knock him out in 3 rounds and being, like, 4th guy in an undercard. You know, you need to sort of up your ante. So, I mean, fighting a guy like Arreola, who, you know, I mean, he's a tough guy, but he comes to fight. He's going to have all the advantages on him. So, you know, if he gets a win there and he was able to knock him out, you'd have to give him some props and say that, you know, he's looking good. But at the same time, Arreola is going to, like, hit him with some punches, and it's going to test him to see what he's really got in his heart and in his chin. And those are some things that we need to see from him before really you can say too much. I mean, Joshua's been fighting for a shorter time than him, and he shows a lot more. I mean, a lot more. He's not getting hit by every right hand that's thrown his way. And I mean, he's dictating the fights, and he's like finishing guys early. And I mean, you know, guys that actually were warm bodies. I mean, not so much anymore, but you know.
I'll tell you, a Breazeale bout with Chris Arreola, you know, call it the heavyweight championship of Southern California. People would love it. Arreola is absolutely a rock star locally in Southern California. He shows up everywhere. He's a tough bastard. You know, the Mexican-American crew loves him. I mean, that would be a huge fight. And Breazeale's from Alhambra, the LA area. Loves being a local, loves fighting here. That's a great PBC card. You know, that is a damned entertaining fight. And that would tell us a lot about Breazeale, because Arreola is a known quantity. We know exactly what he's going to bring, how he operates. Yeah, it'd be a good test. I do think right now Breazeale is winning a lot by size. I mean, he is just one big-ass dude. He's just big. And he's going to have to learn what to do with all that size when he gets to the really tougher opponents. Because Consuegra brought nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I know you didn't see the fight, Boxing Addict, but quickly, your thoughts on Breazeale, Dominic Breazeale?
Yeah, I knew we were going to talk about him tonight, actually, and I didn't catch the fight, so I went back and had a look on YouTube to see if there was anything on there from him. And there was a fight that I watched. It was against a guy called Homer Fonseca, I think it was. And this guy was about 5'7" tall, but 298 pounds. And it was hilarious. But he came out like a raging bull, and he was absolutely trying to take Breazeale's head off. But by the third round, in between the rounds, this guy was having a heart attack in the corner because he was carrying so much weight. So they had to pull him out. But to be fair, he was doing okay against Breazeale. And Breazeale just looked like a slightly slower, slightly overweight version of Joshua. But he didn't look as good as Joshua. And I think if Areola went in there with him, from what I've seen, this was a fight last year that I'd seen. It was his 8th professional fight. Funnily enough, the announcer introduced him into the ring as a veteran of 8 fights, which was really strange, but there you go. So, yeah, I don't really rate him that highly, but let's see how he progresses. You know, he might get better with time, but from that outing, he didn't look great to me. Joshua would have spanked that guy within half a round.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. And, you know, I have to see more about this guy. Let's move on to the news. A couple of news events broke within the past couple of days. I'll start with breaking news that broke today, as the apparent negotiations taking place for a bout between newly crowned IBF Super Middleweight champion James Degale and Bernard Hopkins. According to Fight News, in an interview with Hopkins, the negotiations are going pretty fast. They seem to be pretty serious. Hopkins, you know, talk about how he's going to make history and blah blah blah. I'll go back to you, boxing at it, with you being from the UK. Degale is from England. What is the talk into a potential Degale Hopkins fight?
Well, I'm sorry to sort of rain on everyone's parade, but I don't think there is any talk of it. I think it's just Hopkins spouting off. Everybody seems to be quoting Fight News' interview with Hopkins, and Hopkins is basically just saying, I'd like to go and fight Degale in London. But I've not heard anything from Eddie Hearn, James Degale, any of the broadcaster, nothing about a fight between those two. All I've heard is Hopkins come out in this interview and say, I'd like to fight James Degale in London. And it seems to have been sort of retweeted and reposted, and different companies doing different stories on it. So there is no talk, I'm sorry to say. I'd like the fight to happen. I want to see Hopkins come over here, actually. But yeah, I haven't heard any real rumours apart from an interview with Hopkins saying he'd like to come to England, which is what he's been saying for a few years.
I will go to you on this one, Gail. Have you heard anything other than the Hopkins interview on Fight News, which was actually reposted on Boxing News 24, I believe, in terms of a potential bout between Hopkins and Degale?
Yeah, I'm hearing that chatter, but you know, it's existing right alongside with chatter. You know, like Martin Murray saying he wants to fight Degale, and you know, every other combination. So, you know, once again, until these fights are signed on paper, there is no fight. It's an intriguing matchup. I think Bernard is not one to really talk a lot of shit. You know, if he's negotiating, and he says he is. Well, if he says he is negotiating, I tend to believe it. I don't know how far along it is. You know, sometimes you bring these things out in the public, you know, to sort of take the fan temperature. Is there any excitement? Is there any buzz when you mention it? If there's a lot of buzz, great, you keep pushing forward. If there's not, oh, whoops, maybe something happens, or you don't end up pursuing it like maybe you intended because there's such a lukewarm reception. I think in principle, it's a fairly decent fight. It's certainly interesting. You know, I think any Bernard Hopkins fight's pretty damn interesting. So, well, see what happens.
Yeah, I think Boxing News 24. Sorry, there's a writer for them called Scott Guilfoyle who seems to post a lot of stuff, and he talks absolute bollocks. So, you know,
and a lot of writers make the mistake of saying, you know, there is a fight that's made or going to be made when it's just nowhere near that far along, just because guys are talking about it. You know, it doesn't mean their promoters have agreed. It doesn't mean the money is right. There's a million things that can go wrong.
No, he's put a piece out there, and it's there's no substance to it whatsoever. So, yeah.
Your thoughts on this, Sean? If I was Degale, that's a fight I would take. To be honest with you, coming off of the loss, Sean, to the light heavyweight, the top light heavyweight in the world. His name skips my mind right now. Kovalev. If I was Degale, the way Hopkins looked in that fight, I wouldn't be afraid of that fight. I would say bring it on.
Oh man, if I was Degale, I would take it strictly because Hopkins is a name and he's willing to go fight in England or the UK. I mean, come on. I mean, Hopkins got skills, but I mean, he's old and slow, and Degale is just going to kick his ass for 12 rounds. I mean, obviously, I don't think he would stop him because Hopkins is a tough guy who was able to deal with Kovalev's power. But I mean, you know, he's going to easily get beat. I mean, at this stage, I don't even think it's competitive. I mean, you know, it's definitely not one of the harder fights for him. But I haven't heard anything about it, so I don't know how much it's sort of being pushed. But I've heard about Garcia Malignaggi,
You know what? You know what?
But I'm mostly excited about Matisse Postal. That's a good fight.
Who's that? Who was that, Sean?
Matisse against Postal for the 140 title that Garcia
gave up. Yeah, for those who do not know, Danny Garcia decided to relinquish his WBC junior welterweight belt, and Matisse is fighting Postal for the vacant belt. I don't know when that fight is going to happen exactly, but those two will be fighting for the vacant belt. Other news that broke this week is IBF Junior Featherweight champion Carl Frampton, a fighter who I really like. I'm impressed by. I think behind Rigondeaux, he's the best in that division, clearly in my opinion. He's going to be making Frampton, who recently signed a kind of a deal, an agreement with a deal, I should say, with Al Heyman. His next title defense will be in the U.S. I think the name the guy is Alejandro Gonzalez Jr. I believe his name is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gail. I'm happy at that news. The problem is, my issue is the fight is going to happen in Texas, which we all know has questionable judging, questionable refereeing, and my fear is that they're going to have a high-profile bout on PBC, maybe on CBS or NBC, and somehow Lawrence Cole, his ass will finagle in there and get the opportunity to referee in that fight, and if he does, Frampton is in trouble. Frampton is in trouble because we all know how Lawrence Cole is. That's my fear. I'll just leave it in. Happy that Frampton is coming to the U.S. Not happy that he's going to be fighting in Texas.
Well, we cross our fingers it'll be John Shorley instead of Lawrence Cole. I mean, there's always hope, and you know, maybe Lawrence Cole's car can come to a bad end on the way in, or there's things you can do.
But his car just won't start.
Yeah, right. Hey, there's a lot of things that can happen, Things I
have a problem with the alternator. Have a problem with the starter.
Yeah, those alternators are pesky, I just blow up on you, out of nowhere. I think it's smart for Frampton to come in, and it is kind of an odd venue, but Texas has proved to have really really interesting, very enthusiastic fan base that will come see anything. They're great sports fans overall. They've got good big venues. It makes it real easy to adjust the TV schedule. They're in central time zones, so you can kind of go up or down, which can help a little bit when you're talking about a British fighter. Adjust the time. So I can see where it happened. It's also in a lot of ways not too expensive to stage a fight in Texas, because Frampton being an unknown, he probably could draw very well in, say, Boston or New York, but it isn't cheap to stage fights there. So I think we're you were probably overthinking it a little bit. Yeah, the referee situation is a pisser. It drives me crazy. I don't know. I think Frampton is so skilled and such a fast operator. He may get in there and take care of business before Cole has a chance to screw it up.
Yeah, it may be a case, but in terms of Frampton, the more I see of him, the more of a fan I'm becoming. I just said that he's, to me, I think Frampton of the lot at 122 pounds, he has the best chance of beating Rigondeaux. That's how highly I think of him. And if they fight, I think it's not a cakewalk for Rigondeaux. I think Rigondeaux was the favorite. I think he can outbox him, but it wouldn't be a cakewalk for him at all. I go to you on this one, Sean. I know you think very highly of Frampton as well. Your thoughts on him heading to the U.S.?
Oh, it's a smart business move, right? I mean, he's really built his brand in the UK, so much so that, I mean, the biggest fight for him really is the Quigg fight, so it's a shame that one didn't happen before coming to the States. That timing would have been a little better. Fight Quigg, sort of solidify yourself in the UK, and then come over to the States and take over. But, no one can blame him. He still has the Quigg fight because there's different promotions and different networks, a problem that in the States people are more than familiar with. We can see why he would just venture over to the States with Heyman, who's got tons of potential fights for him. Obviously a Santa Cruz fight is the cherry on top down the road. And, I mean, who would pick Santa Cruz?
Who he would whoop? He would whoop.
Would kick that
Frampton
boy's
would whoop
ass.
He would whoop Santa Cruz. He could potentially
he would stop him inside 8.
Well, and here's another thought on this Texas venue. Let's think about this for a minute. Your opponent needs a Spanish-speaking audience. And maybe they're testing the waters to see how well a Frampton-Santa Cruz fight would play out in front of the Latino-American audience. So you put these two guys in there, how much support is there going to be for Rigondeaux? And if it draws well among the Latino fight fans, they're certainly going to turn out for Santa Cruz, whom they know a little better, and who's an American. So, it's kind of an interesting way to test the waters. I think that might be what's going on there, putting this in Texas.
Boxing at it.
Rigo going to sign with Heyman?
I don't know. I hadn't heard anything yet on that.
I'd be surprised. He tends to go his own way. What I think the big issue for Rigo is it's been a long time since he had a fight, and things can go south really fast when you haven't been in the ring, in a year plus. When was his last fight? I don't even remember.
The Japanese guy.
December here in Japan.
Yeah, that's right. But it's going to end up having been a while for him.
He's supposed to have another fight through the same Japanese promoter. People are talking about Shinjio Ueka, but I don't know what's happened with that. I haven't heard anything in the meantime, and I think Shingo Ueka has another fight, so I don't know where that leaves Rigo. But I know that he had another fight on the promotion from the Japanese promoter, but yeah. His promoter, Curry Promotions, is terrible, so who knows what they're doing.
Well, it'd be interesting, from Rigo's point of view, it wouldn't hurt him to sign with someone like Taiken. I think he is more appreciated among the Japanese fans, and to have a Japanese promoter who is trying to make inroads here would be very smart.
I've been saying that for 2 years. That would have been the smartest way. Lots of fights and good money.
Yeah, absolutely. Except that you got to work and you got to fight for it. You got to actually earn it.
Yeah.
Let me bring boxing addict into this. Your thoughts on Quigg heading to the U.S.?
Quigg. I wish you.
Frampton.
I mean, Frampton. Brain lock there, Frampton.
Yeah.
I'm saying it because I want Quigg and Frampton to fight, but it's not going to happen right now. So, hey.
Yeah, that's what should be happening. But this is all to do with Barry McGuigan, you see. Barry McGuigan's been his mentor from the start, and it all sort of kicked off when Eddie Hearn was originally Carl Frampton's promoter, and Barry McGuigan was annoyed that he was sort of having control over him. So Barry McGuigan took him away, and now he absolutely detests Eddie Hearn. He doesn't want to put Carl Frampton on Sky. He'll do anything not to give Eddie Hearn any money or a fight with Quigg. So he's now got in bed with Heyman, and I'm not sure. Heyman will have a plan for him, of course. If it goes to Texas, Gale might be right. They might be putting him in there with a Mexican dude and seeing how that pans out with all the Irish fans and what have you. But he should really, as Sean was saying in the chat there, he should really be fighting in Boston or New York. They'd fill out arenas there, I'm sure. But yeah, let's see how he gets on over there. Frampton's an excellent fighter. I agree. He's second in the division behind Rigondeaux. But I'd like to see him fight Rigondeaux because I think he'd have a really good chance against him, actually. I think we've talked about it before, about my opinion on Rigondeaux. I think he could be knocked out. I think Frampton is the man who could do it. So, but yeah, I'm hoping the Quigg fight happens as well because they're two great fighters who can fight in a big stadium in Britain. So, yeah, let's see how it all pans out. But it'll be interesting to see Frampton fight out there. A lot of the British guys who have gone out there have done okay. They've got decisions out there. The scoring seems to be fair. Obviously, the Ricky Burns fight was the stickler, but that was Lawrence Cole again. So yeah, looking forward to seeing him out there, and it's something new, isn't it?
Let me go back on something you were saying, Boxing Addict. Is the animosity between McGuigan and Hearn that bad to the point that we may never see this fight between Frampton and Quigg?
It's a possibility because they really don't like each other. Well, it's that McGuigan doesn't like Eddie, and Eddie's trying to really push the Quigg fight. To be fair, Eddie Hearn offered him, I think he offered 60-40 to the winner, which of a huge fight in Britain, which would sell out 40,000-50,000 in a stadium. There's millions in that fight, so 60-40 to the winner. If you think Paul Frampton can beat Quigg, take the fight. But he didn't want it, and Barry's very sort of, he's been his mentor for years, I suppose, been Cole's mentor for years, and he's got his plan of what he wants to do with him, and he wants full control. But Eddie Hearn ended up letting him go because of Barry McGuigan constantly poking his nose. Barry's his manager, and that's it. But Eddie had the conflict with him where he needs to be able to promote him, and he couldn't with Barry constantly causing issues. So I read in a piece today that Barry was also staying as his manager, and Al Heyman is now his advisor. So it'll be a similar thing going on out there, but he's obviously found more of a friend with Al Heyman. So.
Wow. Let's move on and kind of break down, preview the fights that's happening this weekend. On Spike, Erislandy Lara fighting Delvin Rodriguez, Artur Bertebiev fighting Alexander Johnson. I'll be honest here in doing the previews. To me, all four fights we're going to discuss, to me, I see them as mismatches on paper, but we're going to talk about them anyway. Lara Rodriguez. To me, Lara, he's the better boxer. He has the quicker hand speed. Rodriguez, he doesn't have the greatest chin. He can be hit. He's a little bit too stiff, in my opinion. I just cannot see a way in which Lara loses. He's too good. He's too skilled. He's too fast. Rodriguez is too vulnerable, and anybody can chime in on this. I just see Lara winning by decision or a possible late round stoppage because of Rodriguez's questionable chin. But I just see Erislandy Lara winning all the way. Anybody want to chime in?
I'll go first quickly on this. I'm a big fan of Lara, really, really like him. But I want to see him in a decent fight. This isn't a decent fight. I think Rodriguez has lost he's only won 4 of his last 10 fights. He's been knocked out a couple of times. He's never beaten anybody decent. It's a nothing fight. Lara will run rings around him and probably win a decision.
Lara really wants to, in a psychic way at least, avenge his decision loss to Canelo last year. He still feels really burned by that. He brings it up if you give him the least little bit of opportunity, feeling like he got robbed in that. So, all right, if that's the case, Erislandy, you better put on a good show. Rodriguez is there for the taking. We know what he's looked like in his last half dozen fights. Not all that great. If Lara is as good as he says he is, and he really does feel he got robbed a year ago, you got your chance to prove it this weekend, and I will accept nothing less than just a blockbuster performance out of him. If not, then he can shut up.
Lara, to his credit, he's the only real middleweight, junior middleweight I see who's openly calling out Triple G. I go to you on this one, Sean. Am I wrong here? Or did you see any chance that Delvin Rodriguez has? Because I don't. Sean?
Fucking point. Oh, what's the point of this fight? He wants a GG fight, right? That's what he's telling everyone. And he thinks fighting this guy is going to get him one step closer to GGG. Why doesn't he go fight a fucking 160-pound guy? Like a legitimate guy. Go fight somebody that actually people know and care about, who actually is at a weight where then he could say, look, I went to 160. I beat a good guy. Now, come on, put me on your list. You're struggling. You have nobody to fight. But no, he fights a bum who hasn't done anything in 3 years, and then he thinks that beating him is going to raise his profile. I mean, come on. His profile's ruined because he's not aggressive enough, and he fights too defensively. The only reason he's not getting a GGG fight is because he's opposite network. He's like boxer in there, and they can school him and show that he's overrated. That's the only people want to see it. Nobody really wants to watch Lara run for 12 rounds and try to survive like he did against Canelo. I mean, if he wants to get that fight, go to 160, beat one of these guys that are there, fight Saunders, fight Eubank, beat somebody, and then go, look, I'm relevant at 160. Give me the fight. And people would be like, yeah. But after this fight, nobody's saying yeah. People are saying, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they're yawning. They're yawning.
Joining us late right now is Jay Dill. What's going on, Jay Dill?
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. We kind of view fights that's happening this weekend, talking about Erislandy, Lara, and Delvin Rodriguez, and we all in agreement here. Rodriguez has no shot. This is basically a chance for Lara to get a really decent win. As far as I'm concerned, get a knockout here. Your thoughts on Lara, his fight with Delvin Rodriguez?
Wow. This is just gonna be a slow-paced fight by Lara trying to control the distance, get his rhythm going. Rodriguez' best fight was against that Polish fighter Paul Warlock or
Warlock.
Warlock. Yep. Yeah, those two fights were amazing, but other than that, no, Rodriguez has fall short in other fights, against Trout and other guys. But I'll just say this: in this fight, I see a competitive fight in the beginning. Then Lara's going to take it to another gear, and then you'll see the difference between the two talents. And eventually, Lara's going to pick them apart with the left, and maybe a stoppage. But I think it's probably going to go to decision though. One of those fights that people are not going to think is going to be impressive, but good enough where it's an Erislandy Lara win or something. That's
on the undercard of this Spike TV card, which is happening in Chicago tomorrow night, Artur Bertebiev, who destroyed Campillo last time out, fighting a fighter by the name of Alexander Johnson. I go to Jonas Miguel. I don't know much about Johnson, but from what I've seen, again, Bertebiev, this looks like a Bertebiev knockout to me. I just don't think that Johnson, from what I've seen, has enough hold Bertebiev off here. A showcase bout, from as far as I'm concerned. I think once Bertebiev catches him, the fight going to be over. Period.
I agree. It's another showcase. You know, that's what we've had a lot of lately, these mismatched showcase fights. You know, the thinking behind it is, you know, give the A-side fighter a way to look good. I don't think the way to make an A-side fighter look good is to give him a pushover in the ring. That's not going to do anything for him. And it's certainly not going to help him from an athletics perspective developing his career. Give them someone competitive. Make it interesting. You know, get the styles matchup right. And then we have something that's worth everybody seeing, and the fighters learn, benefit, and grow from it. They not just push over until they get to somebody that really is worthy, and then suddenly they're overmatched, you know, because they've been brought up. Case in point, Leo Santa Cruz. PBC has done him no favors, giving him, you know, a bunch of these schmoes to fight. Once he gets a real opponent in there, he's going to look horrible, you know, and he gets what he deserves. It's ridiculous. All right, rant over. Bertebiev's going to take care of this guy, you know, unless we're surprised. And I always hold out the element of surprise. You never know, but I'm not counting on it. Bertebiev should look good. I like him a lot. I like seeing him introduced to a bigger audience. I wish this wasn't the way they were doing it.
I just see the train continue to roll for Bertebiev in this fight with Johnson. What say you, J. Dill?
I see the same. This is nothing but a showcase fight. I don't see the competitiveness in this. But, you know, in boxing, you know, I'm starting to realize you never know. But I highly doubt on this one. Bertebiev is hungry and he's trying to make a noise in this division. So this should be another one of those knockouts, like you said.
Sean, your thoughts?
Okay, I'll go.
Boxing
you know what fight's better than these last two fights? Khan against Algieri. Better matchup. Much better.
Yes.
Wow, you're gonna go back to that. You're gonna go back to that.
I'm just saying, much better matchup.
Yeah.
You know, this fight is only interesting because there's talk about Bertebiev fighting Stevenson, if not next, you know, soon. Now that he signed with Al Heyman, that's the fight everybody's looking for, because obviously the Kovalev Stevenson fight looks like it's not going to happen. It looks like Kovalev's going to have a rematch with Pascal, and then Stevenson's big fight would be against Bertebiev. And, you know, I mean, that's an exciting fight. Everybody would like to see that one. I mean, two big power punchers getting in there and to see who's going to last. And, I mean, Bertebiev, he still has things to prove. I mean, he fought a skilled Campillo, but Campillo always had a bad chin, so nobody expected that fight to go less, you know, more than 3 rounds. So we will see what happens when he fights a guy who could take his power or actually hit him back. You know, this guy, you know, this is just an introduction fight for a new network under a new promoter, just to say, hey, look who I have.
And that's the kind of fights we've been getting out of them. It's not doing them any good.
Well, but the problem is most of those fights haven't been like that. You know, which one has been good other than Guerrero and Thurman? Because Guerrero, like we said earlier, he has heart, and he refused to lay down. But other than that, I mean, none of the other fights were really even competitive. I mean, this fight, it's not going to be competitive, but it's going to be explosive. So,
I would say Darrell and Degale was competitive
Yeah,
as well as
Guerrero, Miguel.
but,
Yeah,
but,
Darrell
but
and-
that's not Al Haymon
and as
promoting.
well as
That's a dual promotion.
Okay,
as well
so
as
that doesn't count.
Well, it doesn't count as an Al Haymon PBC.
McDonald Comida.
exactly, it's still a on a Heyman show, so it has to count now. It has to
What about
God.
Guerrero versus Martinez? That was competitive. But what about Darchinyan versus Quavo? However you say
Oh
his
my God, that was a crazy fight.
name. Yeah.
Darchinyan needs to retire, and his manager says he's not. But man, he needs to retire.
Yeah.
Guerrero Martinez is only good because Guerrero is limited and has heart. But on paper, that was supposed to be a walkover. Darchinyan, old, been steamrolled. This is supposed to be a walkover. But because the guy who's fighting him is limited, it took him a while to land the punch. And Darchinyan showed his veteran skill to be able to last until he got hit. But I mean, nobody expected him to win that fight. He's a way smaller guy. The other guy was a gigantic guy compared to him. Huge. He should have just laid on him, and Darchinyan would have been done after 2 rounds.
I like this for the knockout though. Be
It
honest.
was good. That's what that guy has, power.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
but
He will
to the earlier,
126.
but to the earlier point, I do think Degale Darrell, that does matter as well as the McDonald Camino fight, just simply because it was on the show, even though it wasn't technically Al Haymon fighters, the fact that it was still on an Al Haymon card, that should matter somewhat. Other fights that you talked about, Sean, I will concede your point, but those 2 fights specifically, that means something. It means something. Let's move on to a kind of HBO show. Let's move on to fights that's happening Saturday night, one on HBO, one on Showtime. I want to focus on the HBO fight first. Nicholas Walters coming off a highly impressive destruction of Nonito Donaire, blew him out, fighting an undefeated fighter by the name of Marriaga for Walters' WBA featherweight belt. Marriaga, he has an undefeated record, but it's kind of a mirage, if you will. Look at who he's fought, and from the video I've seen of him, he's not a better boxer, and physically he doesn't have the physical strength or the power of a Donaire to even trouble him. So what advantage does he have going in? And I look at that and I just say again, mismatch in my opinion is a showcase bout, which in this case I'm not necessarily. Yeah, but he beat Walters on. Okay, professional. Okay, professional.
Right.
That's the difference. Professional. Let's see what he does in the pro. That's a different thing. Professional, amateur, whatever. Walters is such an improved fighter who's getting better, who has full confidence coming off of the Donaire win. Nicholas Walters is on a roll, and this is going to. It is what it is. It's a chance for Walters to look good to set up the bout with Lomachenko later on this fall. That's what it is. I'll go to you, Sean, since you mentioned how he beat him already.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a tune-up fight, right? I mean, the guy's been on a long layoff after his biggest win against Donaire. But at least it's an interesting fight because this guy beat him before. This guy's going in with a psychological edge knowing, I beat this guy. This guy's nothing. He doesn't bring anything that I haven't seen before, and I beat him already. And I'm much better than I was before. That's what his mentality is going into the fight. Obviously, I mean, he hasn't fought the same level of competition. But, it's interesting from that standpoint. And it's interesting because, I mean, Walters has been on a long layoff, and we do know that he's got a real big fight coming up, and he needs to look good to sell that fight. So, I mean, we understand how they use fights to build guys. That's part of boxing. but it's always nice when you know that there's a big fight on the horizon, the whole reason why they're building the fight, and that there's something on the cards for the guy to lose if he doesn't look impressive. Because, I mean, if he went out there and struggled with this guy, then maybe the Lomachenko fight wouldn't be something too interesting. But, I mean, if he goes in there and shows the ability that he's been showing and continues to build his brand, because still, I mean, he's unknown by the majority of boxing fans. I mean, prior to the Donaire fight, you know, maybe a few people knew him. And after the Donaire fight, now he's become a little more, you know, pronounced. And, you know, then being on this card and then going with the Lomachenko fight, you know, it's just one more step for him to become like a serious star. And like we were saying earlier, I mean, he's good because he crosses boundaries. I mean, he speaks English, he speaks Spanish, he's able to relate to different audiences, which is great for his brand because, I mean, he can do interviews and he can sell himself to everybody, which isn't going to hurt him in the long run.
Now, Walters is an enjoyable fighter. He is engaging. He loves crowds. He loves doing the interviews, everything that goes with it. He's smart about the trappings. You know, he has his big axe that he brings in the ring. People like a show. They like a showman, and he gets it, but he doesn't let that overpower why he's there, which is his skills. You know, all that's fun, but when it's time to get to work, he gets to work, which I really like about him. You know, and I think this is an excellent example. Now, we've just talked about PBC and Al Heyman and how they're matching up fighters for showcases. You know, with not a lot positive to say. Now we're looking at HBO's version of exactly the same thing. You know, and underneath, they're doing the same thing, PBC and HBO. HBO's just doing it a lot better. You know, they're bringing in somebody where there's more of a connection. The matchup makes more sense. There's a little more intrigue to it. The outcome might be exactly the same, but they do so much better a job on the storyline. And the truth is, here's this guy, he's from Colombia, none of us know him. We don't really know what kind of opposition he's faced. We assume it's not that great. You know, the last South American fighter I saw get in the ring on a few days' notice, by the way, was Eric Bonet, who fought Sean Porter, who's from Ecuador, who none of us, he wasn't even in the program. He was barely on the bout sheet. I mean, we didn't even know. The graphics, some of them didn't even have him. The media briefing book that you get when you're ringside still had Garcia instead of the replacement. It was ridiculous. You know, he lost, obviously. He didn't look bad losing. We were very impressed. He had skills. He brought it. Obviously, you take a fight on that short of notice and you come in anywhere near prepared. That says a lot to me that you stay prepared in between fights. So, Marriaga, you know, I don't think he will be as bad as we think. I still expect Walters to plow over him, but that is the kind of showcase I don't mind seeing. Some of these others have just been ridiculous. You know, Breazeale's a good example. That's just really not benefiting anybody.
Let's bring Jay Deal in boxing in here. Your thoughts on this bout with Walters and the guy he's fighting, Marriaga? I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
No, that's right, Marriaga.
Like
Jay Deal. Yeah.
Okay. Like Gail has said, you know, we never know. So I'm gonna put the Sean Newton rule. You never know. Boxing's boxing. So you can't dump on no matches no more. Even though it's freaking Algeria. I'm just gonna say this though.
What did you say?
I'm more concerned about how Walter's rhythm is. Is he rusty? How many rounds he's gonna put in, and how warm up he gets. What's his mentality? Does he still got that tenacity? How he gonna set his shots up, and how he's gonna do against a guy that beat him in the amateurs. You know, this reminds me of that movie, The Great White Hype. You know, got set up with the right hand, got knocked out in the amateurs, but here's the big times, boy. If you're gonna embarrass Walters on TV, he might get mad. He might knock this dude out, and it ain't an interesting story no more. So I'm just waiting to see if Marriaga could implement a game plan and prove what he's talking about. I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, the amateurs are the amateurs, but this is the pros, and I hope it's entertaining for like 3 rounds, 4 rounds, but then I just want to see Walters shift it to another gear, just take over with his range, take over with his length, go to his body, land some vicious uppercuts, and just axe this dude out so we can talk about the fight we really want to talk about, him and Lomachenko. So, yeah, I'm biased, but hopefully it is somewhat competitive so HBO have an excuse of showcasing it for my attention. So that's all I got to say.
Quickly boxing at it.
Yeah, all right then. So you're ready for this? Marriaga wins the fight. Let me tell you why.
Write that down.
Say that again.
Marriaga wins
Repeat
the
that
fight.
again.
Okay, so yeah, put this down. So he's knocked out just about everybody. Yeah, he's knocked out about everybody. Sean, sit down, listen to us. you need to listen to this one. So he's knocked out everyone he's faced, yeah? Like Geale was saying, they brought in Eric Boney, didn't they? To fight Porter, and he proved to be a very decent fighter. Now, I've never seen Marriaga before, so I went and had a look at him today as well. Saw him against Chris Martin. And that guy is relentless, throws a lot of punches, hard punches, combinations. He's got a very tight defense. He's going to be a real live fighter in this. People are looking at Walters as if he's something, you know, up there with the gods. He can be beat. He's got issues, I think. I don't know what they are yet. I won't tell you those yet. But Marriaga is a hard-punching, relentless guy. And I tell you what, this fight is going to be a lot closer than people think. I think it could be like a Hunnigan-Donald Curry, where Donald Curry was expected to win, pound for pound great, and Hunnigan went in there and blasted him out in 6 rounds. There you go.
Wow. Well, yeah, damn entertaining fight. And
difference is Walters won't have weight issues like Curry did had in that fight. 2, Walters has he will be fully prepared. Walters stops this guy within 10 rounds.
the wild card to me is the fact that Walters hasn't had a fight since October of last year. I would like to have seen him back in the ring on that momentum against somebody after Donaire much quicker. I think that would have been smart for him to carry the momentum in with him. At this point, that momentum is really gone, except for the highlight reel before the fight.
Yeah, this is a hungry guy, though. He's got no fear going in there. Walters is supposed to be the man who's going to win. Like you say, he's been off for a year. There are a few factors in this fight where I think this guy's going to be a real live danger to him. Walters should win, but honestly, don't sweat on an upset here.
Well, hey, a stop clock is right twice a day, so...
Yeah, this guy bangs hard. I watched his fight against Martin. I don't know if you saw it, and I know Martin was just a periphery guy, but you know this guy can bang a bit.
Well, it would be a much more meaningful win against somebody tough, and that would be a much more exciting outcome to me.
Yeah. Plus, Martin had never been stopped from going.
Yeah.
I like him, Sean Newton. Don't be ignorant. So yeah.
Nobody on this podcast is afraid to be ignorant.
let's the final fight before we begin to close things down. Deontay Wilder making his initial defense of the WBC heavyweight title against Eric Molina. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but if Wilder doesn't stop this guy within 6 to 8 rounds or so, I would be disappointed. I would be highly disappointed. I've been touting this guy. I think he's going to be, as he become as champion, I think he's going to be significant improvement as champion. If he doesn't blow this guy out, something's wrong. Something's wrong. He's not the fighter I thought he is. I think he is. I'll go to you on this one, Gail.
Yeah, this is a victory lap for Wilder. It's going to be in his home state of Alabama. When's the last time you heard about HBO broadcasting a fight from Alabama? Think about that. It is completely going to be a homer fight, and it's for Deontay to look good. And let him have his fun. Yeah, he should come out looking good. I've seen him now. Several times in person. He's never been less than impressive. I don't expect any different this time.
I see you, Sean. When I first talked about this fight, you said 3 rounds. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, 3 rounds.
Just simple as that.
Come on. I mean, he's fighting nobody. I mean, he's going to get in there and he's going to wipe this guy out in 3 rounds, and everyone's going to be unsurprised because that's what he's done his whole career until he fought Stavern, who was the most legitimate guy he fought. And coming in with more confidence, he's training hard. He's not coming into this fight planning on looking so-so. He's looking for a big money fight. I don't know if he's a big fight, but he's hoping to fight one of the top guys of this weight, even though I'm sure his next fight's not going to be top echelon either. But, yeah, he's just going to walk through this guy. He's got long jab, and he's got big power, and it's going to take less than 3 rounds for that to land, and this guy's going to fold like a lawn chair. The best fight's going to be the alligators on the undercard.
3 rounds, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, whatever. Mute your mic, Sean. Mute your mic, Sean. It shouldn't matter. Blow him out. I'll go to you on this one, Boxing Addict. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's another shit fight, isn't it? This weekend is full of them. Basically, I think it's a weekend full of fights where the A-side guys just need a W on their resume. So this Molina, I think he got knocked out in his first fight in the first round on his debut. Got knocked out by Areola, good old Areola. And, he's beat nobody. So he's ranked 88th in the world. It's an absolutely terrible fight, even for a first easy defence. It's awful. So I think Wilder will take him out within 1 or 2 rounds, and then let's see him move on and fight somebody decent. They should have been putting him in with somebody like, I don't know, Takam or something like that. Somebody with a decent record who can fight a little bit. It's an awful fight, but I'm sure we'll all watch it and we'll see the knockout.
Yeah, I'll go to you, JD. I think you will make this unanimous here. Should be on paper a blowout win for Deontay Wilder.
Well, Newton's theory says no fight is a shit fight, but Newton's law says laws of gravity, an apple's going to drop to the ground. So, yeah. I expect Molina to be that apple, get smashed, dropped, and murder she wrote, and move on to see Deontay Wilder really defend that title. But hey, you got to showcase in Alabama like Jermaine Taylor showcasing Arkansas. So, it's time for the South to embrace them. So let's see what it do.
Hey, your best model is Terrence Crawford in Omaha. Who knew that a guy like that could absolutely pack arenas, in somewhere like Omaha, which is just fantastic for the sport. You've got an arena full of really enthusiastic people, and if they enjoy themselves, they'll be back. And there are some good fights on the undercard. For those in attendance, they're going to get to see Ivan Redkach on that card. They're going to get to see a young light heavyweight I like a lot. Ahmed El Biali is on the card. Fights a lot out here in California. He's from Miami, so he's local.
And Julie, and Julie Williams is a very good junior middleweight that I like as well.
Yeah,
There you
he's
go.
good.
So, you know, it's the kind of card. If it was any closer to me, I'd go see it.
Yeah, but that's because you're an addict, Gail.
Yeah, I must admit. I'll send you. I'll post a photo later to the Plus page for all of you listening of the last fight at StubHub Saturday. The very last fight was at 5:15 in the afternoon. Mind you, everything started at noon. 5:15 in the afternoon. Damn good little young welterweights in the ring, and I think there were 4 people left in the media section. That was it. Yeah, about 500 people left in the stands, and they all knew either one or the other of the 2 fighters. That was it. It was one of the best fights in the afternoon.
Yeah, that normally happens, actually.
Yeah. So, Jesse Duran. Look for that name, Jesse Duran, young welterweight. Good guy.
Absolutely. I think we're going to shut the show down on that note. Gail Falcon, Dollar Community Digital News. Mute your mic right quick, Sean. Gail, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, boxing, Game of Thrones, or otherwise, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, indeed. Well, on Sunday I will be watching Game of Thrones and hosting a live chat, but most of the time I do completely admit to being a fight freak of the worst order, and you can talk boxing with me anytime. My column is Ringside Seat on Communities Digital News. Search it, you'll find it, and I'm on Twitter at PR Pro San Diego.
Go to you, Jay Dale. If folks want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
I'm one of the biggest Game of Thrones fans. I read all the books. I watched the show too, and I did a hangout with EJ Boxing Live on our last Game of Thrones. Gail should join in on our Sunday hangout as well. Well, matter of fact, it's on Monday. I'm going to add you if available. But, find me on Twitter at Life7Jones, or find me on Facebook as John Aristotle, or Face Tweet Boxing, or find me on J Deal or Out of Control 2, or you can find me on Aftermath Boxing, Come Back to Boxing, Blog Talk Radio, and you can also find me on the Hangouts with EJ Boxing Live, or you can find me on 78 Sports TV, Lions Den, or you can find me on here. So, yeah, it's not hard to find me on the YTV.
Absolutely. Mr. Boxing Addict, for folks who want to talk the sweet science, we'll let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can get me at Mr. Boxing Addict on YouTube, and also at Mr. Boxing Addict on Twitter. And yeah, I'm into the Game of Thrones as well, but we're a week behind here, I believe. So I think I'm on episode 7 or 8 of this series. So yeah, don't tell me too much.
Oh, I can't. If you haven't seen spoilers by now, you're in for a treat. Next 2 episodes are absolutely stunning.
Sean, for folks who want to talk boxing or anything else, you're roaming everywhere. Let the folks know where they can find you. Are you going to be a consensus here and say you're also a fan of Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones. You know, Boxing Addict, you can always download, right? And this way, nothing's going to be cut out. You can stay up to date.
Yeah, I like my Monday nights.
You can watch it Monday night. You just download it and watch it Monday. That's what I do in Taiwan. I don't want to have a spoiler alert, but the dragon did it.
Oh, wow.
I thought he did.
Wow.
Episode
alert. Because there are fans of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report who are big-time Game of Thrones fans, so spoiler alert.
biggest show on TV. The exciting conclusion is coming soon, and then we have to wait a year for the next season. Terrible.
I just,
Yeah, but
I just hope the pink letter won't be shown in the finale.
yeah.
I'm good.
But to reiterate, Sean, if folks want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where to find you.
I'm here. I'm on the YTBC. I love boxing, so I'm watching everybody's videos and staying up to breast to what's going on. So see you out there in the land of the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And mute your mic right quick, Sean. For folks who want to talk boxing or anything else with me, they can find me on my personal Twitter at BrotherJR76. If you want to find information about where I talk boxing and Game of Thrones and politics and food and sports and about anything else. If you want to find about the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, again, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the blog link. If you go to the right of the blog page, we'll provide links to where to find us all over the internet, the interwebs, all over social media. Facebook page, the 2G Plus pages, the Tumblr page, podcast page on Podomatic, the Twitter account, YouTube page, the Pinterest board, I said Tumblr, the RSS feed if you want to subscribe to that and check out the show there. If you want to check out the show on Stitcher Radio, we also on Stitcher Radio. There's a link for it there. The email address, p4pboxreport@gmail.com. And lastly, a link to where you can donate your account. So there you go. On the next episode, the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, and we may have a guest. We may have a special guest, a new guest next week. Trying to work on that behind the scenes. We will do a recap of the fights in Chicago on Spike, Erislandy, Lara, Delvin Rodriguez, as well as Bertebiev and Johnson, as well as the recap Walters and Marriaga, as well as Deontay Wilder and Eric Molina. We will also do a preview of the upcoming fight between Sean Porter, Adrian Broner, my fighter of the future to look at, Errol Spence. He's going to be fighting on the undercard. This is going to happen on June the 20th, that same night, on BET. Boxing on BET. How about that? Andre Ward making his long-awaited return to the ring, as he will be fighting Paul Smith in Oakland, California. Also, all this on the same night, on the 20th, bout for the vacant IBF middleweight title, and Sam Endom is going to fight David Lemieux in Montreal. And yes, U.S. boxing fans, the fight will be aired in the U.S. on Fox Sports 2, so you can look for that. So we'll be doing a preview of all of those fights. So again, for Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News, for Jay Dill, for Mr. Boxing Addict, Sean Newton, I'm your host, Michael. This has been another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. You guys have a good evening, good night.
Good night.
Peace.
Good night.
Peace.